Welcome to the Press Box, everybody. Mark and I are back. I'm Zach Miller. This is Mark Haskell, and we're here to talk tournament basketball.
Best time of year.
That time of year again, now that Mark is done with his Super Bowl hoopla and everything. Congratulations, by the way.
Who won the Super Bowl?
Yeah, the Eagles. That's
fine.
It's the
Eagles.
I'm very happy.
They're so good at football.
Anyway, but football's done. We're moving to basketball.
It's not done. Can we talk about it? No, it's fine. It's fine.
No, you can talk about it.
Very, very happy. I went to the parade. It was unbelievable in Philadelphia. I was with my people. Only 2 people got stabbed. I was not one of them. So everything was great.
Cool. Brotherly love, people getting stabbed. Love it. Anyway, back to the hard court now. Mark, it's probably the best time of the year, easily for high school sports. It's tournament time. We're headed to Augusta today because we're filming this on Friday, so...
Later today, we will be at Medomik and Messalonskee girls.
Yep. And so Messalonskee, Medomik girls today. Then we have a bunch of games tomorrow. Islesboro girls in the morning. Belfast, Oceanside, Medomik, and Camden Hills boys all in the afternoon. 2 at Augusta. The other 3 are at... 3 are at Augusta. The other 2 are at Bangor.
Correct. Yeah, Bangor and Oceanside are in Bangor.
Yes.
Yes. So
you mean Belfast?
Wait a minute.
Belfast and Oceanside are in Bangor.
That's right. We're very flustered. We're very flustered.
There's a lot of stuff, a lot of moving parts with this.
A lot of moving parts.
With every year.
Well, let's start with the brackets. Let's go to the brackets and let's talk about Class A North for girls basketball. Obviously, we've got Messalonskee and Medomik Valley. That's going to be going on today at 3 o'clock. We've got a lot of information on this. What's really interesting about this, Zach, is that Medomik girls, they've played a lot of games at the Augusta Civic Center this year. They're 3-0 in games at the Augusta Civic Center because they played Gardner there once and won that game because Gardner's had some problems with their gym, so they haven't been able to play there. They also played in the Gold Rush tournament, and they beat Maranacook and Madison. So they're 3-0. So it's not like they don't have a lot of experience in the Augusta Civic Center gym. So, Messalonskee, they played them earlier this year. Messalonskee beat them 45-44. It was a hell of a game. I'm expecting the same today. What about you?
Yeah, I think it could go either way, like you just said. But the key for that Messalonskee game they played during the regular season, Medomik was leading with like a minute left when I talked to Ryan McNally, the head coach of the girls, and they kind of just I think they had a couple costly turnovers in that final minute, and then they had a foul, and then Messalonskee made a couple free throws, which gave them the win. So I honestly think it can go either way. On paper, it's a 6-3 matchup, but I think it's more could be like a 4 or 5 matchup.
I think it's going to be a closer game than people think. A lot of people just look at the seeds and they say the 3 seed will probably win by 10, 15 points. I don't necessarily think that's the case here. I think Medomik has a real shot. And I'm looking at the stats from their first game. See, Messalonskee, they led by as many as 13 points in the third quarter. Medomik went on a 17-3 run late in the second half to take the lead late in that game.
Yeah.
So it's not like Medomik doesn't have the firepower to hang with a team like Messalonskee. And a lot of people forget, Medomik, they started the regular season 8-1.
Yeah, they were on a heck of a streak there. They just went... They lost what? 5 out of the past 6?
Well, they lost to Messalonskee, and then they lost 5 of the next 6. They lost games to Lincoln Academy, Brunswick, who's undefeated. They're really tough. Lawrence of Fairfield, and Hamden Academy. They're the top seed in A North. So, they had a really tough schedule in the second half. So this is a battle-tested team.
It is, and those that Hamden Academy, Lawrence, and Brunswick games were all in 4 days.
Yes.
And I think they were all on the road, too. Except for, they had Hamden at home, I think.
Right.
And then they had to go to Lawrence and had to go to Brunswick. So that's a tough trip for, 3 games in 4 days or 5 days, especially against the top teams in A South and A North. It's, I'm not surprised that they lost, but maybe on a neutral court site, they might have a better, matchup, so to speak, but it was just tough for them.
Not exactly reinventing the wheel by saying this, but obviously Medomik girls led by Gabby DePatsy, and she's averaging 19.8 points a game and 9.1 rebounds a game, so almost a double-double a game she's averaging. She needs to have a really good game if Medomik hopes to move on.
Yeah, her and Sophie Cohen.
Yes.
They need somebody else to step up with
Sadie Cohen.
Yeah,
Sadie Cohen.
Sorry.
Freudian slips. They happen all the time.
Yeah, it does.
Sophie Cohen, she was a good player at Medomik a few years ago as well.
Yeah.
Do it all the time.
Sadie Cohen, the younger Cohen.
Yes.
Needs to step up. But she did, in a couple of games this year, she had that great game. I think it was against Camden when she had that double-double, almost a triple-double on their home court. So they need somebody else besides Gabby. We know Gabby's going to score and she's going to rebound and she's going to assist, but they need somebody else to kind of...
They've got lots of role players that go in like Hallie Kunish, Lydia Simmons, a lot of those girls. There's a lot of those glue girls that need to kind of step up and have good games as well. It can't be all on Gabby.
Yeah, well, we'll see how they do this afternoon. So now we're going to stay in the girls bracket, but go to the girls Class D South bracket for Vinyl Haven and Islesboro. We'll start with Islesboro first and touch on them real quick. They're playing Temple Academy. Islesboro just snuck into the playoffs. They beat North Haven in the last game of the season, and they were, I think it was 1.5 points ahead of them in the heel points. So if North Haven had beaten Islesboro, North Haven would have gotten in, which was, kind of a cool local play-in game type thing. But I don't think either of us see Islesboro going to Augusta and beating the Temple Academy.
I mean, you don't see their record is 4-9. I mean, they didn't even have enough games on their schedule to play a full 18-game schedule. And and Islesboro, they're a young team. They're a small team.
Yeah,
Temple
small.
Academy, much more seasoned. Don't see this probably working out for Islesboro. But it doesn't mean like it's one of those things where a lot of these small island schools, a lot of times you're just happy to be there. You're happy to go to the dance. You're happy to get to go to Augusta and do all that great stuff that you get a chance to do when you're up there. I saw them play once this year against Hyde School down in Bath, and they had 7 girls. And I didn't see the 2 subs go into the game once. So
Wow.
It looked like the 5 girls played pretty much
That's
the whole
tough.
game. And if, even if you've got some great players, you got to rest them every once in a while. And, if the girls get tired, and, I could see Temple Academy probably jumping out, and it'll probably be a quick exit for Islesboro.
I saw Temple Academy play Vinyl Haven, and they got smoked by Vinyl Haven because Vinyl Haven is just a notch above the rest. And Temple
Yes.
Academy has a deep team, so I think, like you said, if they don't sub or they have 2 subs, it's going to wear down by the second half anyway.
Speaking of that, let's move on to Vinyl Haven.
Yeah,
Vinyl
they're-
Haven, the defending state Class D champions, riding a 30-game win streak going into the tournament, and their first game is going to be Monday. I believe Tuesday
Tuesday
at
at 11:30.
Valley. Tuesday against Valley.
So
They've got a 30-game win streak coming into this game, defending state champions. And they're dominant. I guess dominant would be the best way to describe
They're
these girls. I mean,
undefeated,
they're
yeah,
a
they're
seasoned
amazing.
team. I think all 5 starters are seniors. They all know what they're doing. They all know how to win games at the Augusta Civic Center. They know how to win big games. I see them running right through this bracket, but we'll just talk about Valley first. They beat Valley a couple times this year. Pretty lopsided games, convincing margins.
Like they did everybody else, including Rangeley, who's been known to be a power in Class D South every year. They kind of are always in the regional final or always in the semifinals. Last year they got upset, which helped Vinyl Haven get to the state championship and ultimately win. But this year, it's Vinyl Haven's to lose. Maybe even the state championship.
Last year, you could have made the argument that Rangeley might have beat Vinyl Haven if they met up in the regional final, but Forest Hills knocked Rangeley off before that had a chance to happen. Now, I think Vinyl Haven, a year older, a year wiser. I think if those 2 teams do end up, I think Vinyl Haven takes it. And I think Vinyl Haven is going to go back to the state game.
Yeah, I've seen nobody this year that can stop them. Or
They're
even
solid.
even come close.
If we had to bet on any of our local teams to make it to the state game, I would pick the Vinyl Haven girls.
Easily.
No question.
Easily.
Yeah.
The closest game they have was their final game of the year against Searsport that they won by 1.
1 point.
Yeah,
And that game probably, if Searsport would have won that game, that probably would have pushed them into the tournament
Probably.
in C North.
All those heel points that Vinyl Haven had, they had like
Yeah,
130 or 40 heel points in Class D South.
Yeah.
But now we'll jump into the boys bracket tomorrow, Saturday afternoon, for Class A North boys. Camden Hills, 5 seed, plays the 4 seed of Coney at 8 o'clock. Late game for the Windjammers. And at 4 o'clock, the 6 seed of Madomic plays the 3 seed of Skowhegan in a matchup of last year's quarterfinal when Madomic was number 1 undefeated and Skowhegan knocked them off as the 8 seed. So maybe a little revenge factor there for the Panthers coming off of last year's heartbreaking loss, which left everybody, including us, stunned at the Civic Center.
And this is a 6-3 match. We'll start with your games in Augusta. Let's start with the 6-3 with Madomic and Skowhegan. And you're right. That was a big upset last year. But and a lot of people look at the 6-3 matchup and they just probably think that Skowhegan's going to edge them out. But I'll tell you what. I've been doing this 10, 11 years now, and, I've seen Nick DePatsy have some great teams that, that go deep into the playoffs, go to state finals. I've seen him have teams that aren't as great and still make tournaments and still give teams fits because he's a great coach and he gets the most out of every single one of his kids. I don't see that being any different. Skowhegan and Madomic, they both have identical 11-7 records, and Madomic knows how to go up to the Augusta Civic Center and win, as do Skowhegan, obviously. But I see this being another nail-biter, down-to-the-wire kind of game.
It should be a good game. And one thing about Madomic is that they're a very young team. Only 2 seniors on that roster, and then there's 2 pretty good 8th graders coming up next year that could challenge for varsity playing time as well. So it's a pretty crowded and loaded roster for Nick DePatsy to work with the next couple of years. But they got to focus on Skowhegan for tomorrow. And I think they could get it done, like you said. And with the way the heel points are structured, the 3-6 matchups, and like you said, they both have 11-7 records. It's kind of like, well, which team is better? Maybe one team beat another, a team they weren't supposed to beat during the regular season, which vaulted them up the standings, where maybe they should have been down in the 6 or 7 or 5 seeds as opposed to being a 3 seed.
And this is also a situation where these 2 teams didn't play during the regular season, so you really don't have any real gauge on how they would do against each other. We'll talk more about Oceanside and Winslow later and how familiar they are with each other. But let's move on to the Camden Hills and Coney boys. These two teams also didn't play each other during the regular season, but they're led by three top-notch seniors. We've got Noah Heidorn, John Curtin, and Daniel Peabody. They're all fantastic players. Noah Heidorn averaging 16.2 a game, John Curtin 11.6 a game, and Peabody right behind him at 11.5. If you can get all three of those guys rolling, then Coney, even though this game is going to be in the Augusta Civic Center, and you've got a lot of things where Coney is the home team.
Really.
Even though it's a neutral court, Coney is going to be the
playing
home team.
5 minutes away from their home gym.
Absolutely,
and it's easy for those fans to travel, and it's a short bus ride.
Yep. Yeah. Noah Heidorn is a fantastic player. He's definitely a two-way player, and John Curtin, he's so tall. I mean, he's
got to be
6'4",
6'5",
and he can shoot the three, and you really have to adjust your game plan for a kid like him. And Heidorn and Peabody are also, and they've got a lot of other role players as well.
Yeah, I think the big thing will be to see if they can get Curtin and Peabody going, because Peabody's more of that typical down-low post presence that you see in a big guy. Even Peabody's like 6'3" or 6'4" himself. But Curtin's that guy that's 6'4", 6'5", who can go down low, and he's more athletic than Peabody, and he can step back and nail an NBA range three with hit nothing but net. So it all depends on who comes out to play. We know Heidorn will be there to score most of the points and all that fun stuff with the assists and rebounds and stuff. He's more of the energy guy, so to speak, and their leading scorer and everything. It'll be interesting to see if the other two guys and even somebody else from the bench can step up.
Obviously, Camden Hill's led by Jeff Hart. Jeff Hart just racked up his 500th career win. Hell of a career he's had coaching. Doesn't look like he's stopping anytime soon. But his team hasn't been to the tournament in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So if you think that they're not wound up to try to get Jeff number 501 come Saturday, then you're crazy. I think Camden could definitely come away with this game.
Yeah, I do too. It's a toss-up. Flip a coin, the 4-5 matchup.
Yep.
You never know who's going to win.
You never know.
Now move to B North, boys. First, before we get to Oceanside, let's start with Belfast.
Okay, let's do it.
Belfast went up to Caribou as the 9 seed and knocked off the 8-seeded Vikings in the last seconds of the game, thanks to, I think it was Tyler Bartlett who hit the shot, right?
Tyler Bartlett hit the shot, and thank you to Gray Dinsmore for sending us the video on that. We've got the video. We'll take a look at it here in a minute. I'm sure it'll roll. But yeah, it was, he hit that shot. It was Stan Sturgis. Went for a shot from the elbow, missed it. Tyler Bartlett with a great offensive putback up and in. And their defense held pat just enough, kind of rattled Caribou in those last final seconds. Caribou had to hurl up an off-balance three, missed it. And just like that, Belfast is on to the tournament. Yep. But not much time to celebrate when you're going to be playing undefeated Herman come Saturday.
Top-seeded Herman's undefeated on the year. They've rolled through everybody, including Oceanside that they've played. Actually, twice, yeah, that's true. They did play them twice this year. But those games were pretty close. I don't think we see Belfast advancing to the semifinals, but you know what? You never know. We've said this before a couple of years ago when Oceanside knocked off Hamden Academy. I mean, I said they were going to win. Yeah. I'm just going to ride that train for as long as I can.
He's never brought that up before, ever.
Yeah, right?
Never, ever.
Anyway.
No, but even more pressing, like 3 or 4 years before that, Oceanside boys, they were the number 1 seed, and they lost to number 8 Herman in overtime. That was the year the Cross Insurance Center in Bangor opened. So it's not like it's unprecedented to see an 8 beat a 1. I could see a situation where, Stan Sturgis, he's their offensive catalyst. I mean, he's averaging 16 points a game. Chris Kelly, he's a freshman. He's averaging 10. Everybody on the Belfast team is going to have their best game of the year, and Herman's probably going to have one of their worst games of the year if that upset is going to happen. It could happen. It could absolutely happen.
It could.
We've seen it happen before. But it's going to take a big effort for Belfast to go up there and get a W.
And if Belfast does win and move on to the semis, they could potentially face Oceanside for a nice mid-coast clash in the semifinals, which would be interesting.
Yep.
Oceanside, the 5 seed, playing who else? The 4 seed of
Winslow,
who they've already paid 3 times this year.
Yep, they split in the regular season. Oceanside won 59-47 at home, and then Winslow won 57-49 at home. Obviously, Oceanside beat Winslow in the KVAC championship game, but I'm pretty sure both teams were playing pretty vanilla. Didn't really want to give up a lot of information on what they might be doing come tournament time. But that was also another close game. That was about an 8-point game. You were at that game.
Yeah, it was 65-58, and it actually went down to 4 points. Oceanside They got 16 points from Cooper Werkele in the second quarter of that game and 13 straight from him in that quarter. And they were up, I think it was like 15, almost 20 points at one point in the second quarter. But then the second half, they just kind of went downhill. And Winslow picked it up, and they got within 4 or 5 or 6 points. It made it really interesting down the stretch, but Oceanside held on.
That Oceanside game where Oceanside beat Winslow 59-47, that was the last time Winslow lost during the regular season. They went on a 12-game win streak to end the year, lost to Oceanside in the KVAC game, which doesn't really count. But now we're here, and so Winslow technically riding a 12-game win streak going into this game against Oceanside. But again, not reinventing the wheel by saying this, but for Oceanside, to I don't want to say pull the upset because these are two very evenly matched teams, but Mike Norton Jr. and Cooper Workala, that team goes as those two go. I mean, with Cooper Workala, 15.8 points a game, 5.9 rebounds a game, and 4 assists a game. Mike Norton Jr. just under 20 points a game and 9 rebounds a game and almost 4 steals a game. And that's a kid that's been able to throw down slam dunks since 8th grade.
Yeah.
And and a lot of times the Oceanside crowds, Oceanside travels really well. And Norton throws down one of those dunks and the roof?
The roof.
The roof, yeah, thanks. The roof will go off the place. We've seen it happen so many times this year. A lot of times they're maybe down in a game, and a dunk can just change the momentum of a game so quickly.
It really can.
And you can definitely see, I mean, this is a game that could go either way. Winslow's also very, very talented.
There'll be a lot of students there for Oceanside. They traveled very well to Coney. They had to be almost 50 to 100 students there for Oceanside. It was great. And they all had signs and ringing bells and everything else.
They're a fun group.
They're a very fun group. Interesting stat about the Oceanside Winslow KVAC game. There was no Josh Pico in that game. He was out with a stomach bug, according to his father when I talked to him at the game. So, and he's one of their starters, so he needs a big presence in the middle, being 6'4", 6'5", 6'6" guy, which could make things interesting against Winslow.
And obviously,
another added element.
You've got a lot of other guys like Trevor Reed, Brett Start, Amos Anderson. You've got a lot of other factors in this game. It can't just be Workala and Norton, because I mean a lot of times they can just close out on those two guys and try to make other guys beat them. But Reed and Start and a lot of those guys, Jack Freeman, they can all shoot the three. They can all penetrate. Like Oceanside is a solid, very good team. I mean, you think about it. 4 of their 5 losses this year were to MDI twice and to Herman twice. And to Winslow once. So all of their losses were to playoff teams technically above them in the B North standings.
And they were all pretty much all close. One of those MDI losses was by 1 point.
Yeah, one of the Herman losses was lopsided, but everything else, they were all pretty damn close games.
Yeah, pretty close games. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see who moves on from this. We'll probably be back next week to kind of give you a preview of. I'm sure we'll have at least one.
I'm sure we'll be talking some semifinals.
Yeah,
we'll have some teams moving on for sure, but it's going to be a busy couple days for Zach and I for sure.
Yeah, and if you're headed up to Augusta or Bangor, drive safe, enjoy the games. We'll see you next week.